This is the video for Algebra 1 Summer School, Unit 1, Lesson 2, the distributive property and multiplying binomials. All right, so it says at the very top here, when you see the directions, multiply, find the product, simplify, or distribute, they all mean the same thing. They all mean to multiply and combine like terms. Now these first two examples here in number 1A and B show you what we talked about in the last lesson, the rainbows that are already drawn on here. What we call this is double distributing. A binomial is an expression with two terms. So in each of these parentheses contains a binomial. Bi, that stem, means two. You might have learned that in English class. So the x plus 4, I'm going to multiply that by x plus 6. Now the reason there's so many rainbows and just little bars here to show where you're distributing is because you have to do what we call double distribute. That means I need to take the x that is in the first parenthesis here and multiply it by both terms in the other parenthesis. So you need to take x times x, which is x squared, and x times 6, which is positive 6x. That's the first set of the double distribute. Then I have to take the 4 that's in the first parenthesis and multiply it by everything in the other parenthesis. So 4 times x is plus 4x, and then 4 times 6 is plus 24. When I'm multiplying and distributing, my goal is to get rid of parentheses. I did that here. I have no parentheses left. So all I need to do is combine like terms. When I look at x squared, there is no other term in this expression that has an x squared. So my final answer is just going to have that x squared in it. Next, I look at the 6x. Well, here I have 6x plus 4x. Those can combine together to be 10x. Finally, I look at the 24. There is nothing the 24 can combine with, so I'm going to have plus 24 on the end. So it turns out that this original multiplication problem, x plus 4 times x plus 6, equals x squared plus 10x plus 24. Now B does the same thing. It's still working with double distributing here. Okay? So when I do this, we just be more careful this time because it looks like on my x terms there are coefficients. So I start by taking 3x times x. Well, the 3x times 8x. 3 times 8 is 24, and the x times the x is x squared. Then I like to look at the 4 next. The second thing in the first parenthesis gets multiplied. Oh no, I'm so sorry. I did that backwards. So I already started with the 3x times the 8x. Then I'm going to take the 3x times the 5 times the second thing in this second set of parentheses. So 3x times 5 is plus 15x. All right, now I look at the 4. All right, so I looked at the 3x and I multiplied it by everything in the other parenthesis. Now I take the 4 times the 8x. 4 times 8 is 32, then I have an x. Finally, 4 times 5 gives me plus 20. Just as in the first example, I'm going to combine like terms here. The 24x squared has nothing else to combine with. None of the other terms have an x squared. Then I look here at 15x and 32x. Those both have x's, so I can combine the 15 and the 32 together to be plus 47x. Finally, the constant of 20 is all by itself. So I stick a plus 20 on the end and get that the final multiplied and simplified form is 24x squared plus 47x plus 20. Now we're just going to do a lot of examples here. So in example 2, we want to find the product of each of the following. Product in math means multiplication. So we're going to multiply these out and we're going to write our answers in simplest standard form. All right, so I start with the 2x. I'm going to take this 2x times everything in the other parentheses. So 2x times 1x is 2x squared. 2x times the 9 is plus 18x. Now I've multiplied the 2x times everything that I can multiply it by. Now I look at the negative 3. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And negative 3 times 9 is negative 27. I've multiplied every term in the first expression times every term in the second expression. So now I go ahead and combine like terms. As we've seen in the first couple examples, the 2x squared stays the same. It has nothing else to combine with. The 18x and the negative 3x will combine together. They both have an x. 18 minus 3 is 15x. And then I have the negative 27, which stays the same and doesn't combine. So my final answer is 2x squared plus 15x minus 27. All right, looking at number 2b, I need to multiply together 4m plus 2 times 2m plus 1. So as I have in the other three examples, I start with the 4m, and I'm going to multiply it by both terms in the right-hand set of parentheses. 4m times 2m is 8m squared. 4m times 1 is plus 4m. Now I can look at the 2. 2 times 2m is plus 4m, and 2 times 1 is 2. When I combine like terms here, the only thing that can combine is the 4m plus 4m. So I'm going to have 8m squared plus 8m from combining the like terms plus 2. That is our final answer. Now, as I get down to number 3, these are the last 4 examples of the notes. If you would like to try and work ahead and see what you can do on your own, go ahead and hit pause now. Otherwise, you can stick with me and hear more examples and then hit pause at any time and try it on your own. All right, in 3a here, I'm going to start by distributing the 4p to the 4p. Well, 4 times 4 is 16, and p times p is p squared. Then I have 4p times 9. Well, 4p times 9 gives me 36p. 4 times 9 is 36. I've distributed the 4p to everything in the right-hand parentheses, so now I look at the negative 9. Negative 9 times 4p is negative 36p. And then negative 9 times positive 9, negative times a positive is a negative 81. So I'm going to look and see what I can combine here. It seems that the only terms that have like terms are this positive 36p and negative 36p. Well, positive 36 minus 36 is 0. So these terms actually end up canceling each other off. And my answer ends up being 16p squared minus 81. In example B, I'm going to multiply negative 7 times negative 7x cubed minus 3x plus 1. This problem is a little bit different than the other problems on the page, but it's still the distributive property. I'm going to take negative 7 times each term inside the parentheses. So negative 7 times positive 7x cubed is negative 49x cubed. There was no x on the negative 7 out in front, so the exponent stays the same. Negative 7 times negative 3 is positive 21x. And then negative 7 times 1 is minus 7. That's my final answer because I have x cubed, an x, and a constant. None of those are like terms, so that's as simplified as B will get. All right, question C goes back to the ones right at the top of the page. I'm going to distribute x times 3x, which is 3x squared, x times negative 5 is negative 5x. Remember, there's a 1 in front of that x. So 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. Then I look here at the negative 6 times 3x is negative 18x. And negative 6 times negative 5 is positive 30. When I combine like terms, all that combines are the x's. So my final answer is 3x squared. Now negative 5 minus 18 is negative 23x plus 30. That is your final simplified answer. All right, we saved the most challenging problem on the page for last. Now there's a couple different ways that you can attack this problem. When I multiply anything together, I can actually only multiply 2 terms together at a time. And it seems that I have 1, 2, 3 things that need multiplied. So I just need to pick 2 of them to start, because I can only multiply 2 things at once. So I'm going to start by just multiplying this negative 4x times the x minus 5. I'm going to save that x minus 1 for the next step. So negative 4x times x is negative 4x squared, and negative 4x times negative 5 is positive 20x. So now I've multiplied together those first 2 expressions. So I'm going to stick it back in parentheses so that I can multiply negative 4x squared plus 20x times x plus 1. All right, now I still have 2 expressions to multiply together. So let's start with the negative 4x squared times x. Well, when I have x squared times x, that becomes a negative 4x cubed. Negative 4x squared times 1 is just negative 4x squared. The 1 does not change the value of the negative 4x squared. Finally, I have 20x times x, which is plus 20x squared, and 20x times 1, which is plus 20x. Let's look at what we can combine here. I have negative 4x cubed, which has nothing else to combine with. That stays the same. Negative 4x squared plus 20x squared is 16x squared, and then plus 20x, which has nothing else to combine with. Now that you've gone through the notes for this lesson, go ahead back to Canvas and look at the practice that we put on there for multiplying binomials together. There will be a short video to accompany and answer a couple questions.